Okay, so this Mamer, it's Eirin Seif, Lamata Adin Tachlis, and Lamai Ladin Ketz, and then we have the Oitzer. So we spoke about in the first year, the Chiddush here, where on the one hand, the Lamata Adin Tachlis goes very, very low over here, into Klippis, and noch niedriger from Klippis. The Adam HaChoyte, right, the Adam HaChoyte that's lower than Klippis. And not Stam Adam HaChoyte that uses Torah, that uses Kedusha against Kedusha. And then the Oitzer, so the Chiddush here is that the Oitzer, what's the Oitzer? The Oitzer, unlike the Mamorim, the years before, and the years right after, where the Rebbe is comfortable, Kiviyachol, with the Oitzer being the Darg of Lamai Ladin Ketz, here the Rebbe leaps forward and says, no, the Oitzer is Hecher von Jeder Inim von Oyer, because even the Darg of Lamai Ladin Ketz, which is Etzema Oyer, which is the Indian of the Helem, the Koyach HaGvul, the Koyach HaHelem, that's in Oyer Soif, that brings the Tzimtzum. Sof, that's also Oyer. It's Oyer Soif, via Drik Zich Eis in Helem. Right, that Oyer Soif is so Gvul, and Kashem Sheyesh LeKoyach B'Bulti Gvul, Kach Yesh LeKoyach B'Gvul, to say that the Oyer Soif could only be the Indian of Giloi, and doesn't have the concept of Helem, would be putting down the Oyer, saying that it's not Bli Gvul. Bli Gvul has the constant within it Gvul as well. So Mela is the Koyach HaGvul, which is in the Bli Gvul. And so that's in the Mamer and Basi Legani, then the Midah Mesuyemis, in the Maker, the Koyach HaGvul in Oyer and Soif is higher than the Koyach HaBli Gvul. The Koyach HaGvul is lower than Bli Gvul. But the fact that Bli Gvul could be Gvul shows on a much deeper level of Bli Gvul that he's not Mugder in regular Bli Gvul. And that's Lamai Ladin Ketz. But even that won't suffice to explain the need of Oitzer, because it's not ultimate Helem. It's the Helem within Gilui. Right? It's the Oyer and Soif Drik Zich Eis that he has Helem as well. So it's weiter. It's a Gilui of the Eibishter. The Eibishter can express himself through Gilui, and he can also express himself through Helem. That's how great he is. That he could be master himself in such a way that even, right, when someone walks into the room and the light is on and you're standing 2 feet in front of him, yet you see him. Unless you put something to master between the two of you. But that's the reality. The reality is, the lights are on, you see the light. The ability that he could be here, he could be present, right in front of your face. There's nothing being ma'akiv him. And at the same time, he could be master himself. That's also a oyer. What oyer means, it's a bitu, it's an expression. He expresses his shleimos. How mushlim he is, that he has the koyach to be master himself in such a situation where no one else can. Right, in broad daylight, he will disappear. Well, without this brain, he's there, and yet we won't be conscious of him at all. And that you see in the fact that he's in this world, he's present everywhere at the same time. Yet people are completely makrish mitzias habayit. Fine. That's also somewhat of a gili of Eivish. But what is the Oitzer? The Oitzer is Hecher from Lamat and the Taflis, Hecher from Lamat and the Ketz, the Eibishter himself, not any gilui, bitui. That's a mitzias of the Eibishter. Beyond gilui, helem, atzmus. Fine. Here's the shayla. The shayla in very practical ways like this. The Eibishter gives us the Eitzah. Yeah, why does the Eibishter give us the Eitzah? It's in many Basi Leganis, and it's also in the beginning of Basi Legani. Here, it's in the end of Basi Legani. Why do we get the Eitzah? The Eibishter is just being mevazviz Eitzahs. And we're talking about Eitzahs that he himself, the Melech himself never showed anybody. His father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, avoisav. This is stuff that are beyond Gilui. No one's seen it. Not only here, he shows it to the people, he ertelt, gitareis, and he's mevazvez, without any cheshbon, he's giving out the Eitzahs. Why is he giving out the Eitzahs? To win the Mulchama. Win the Mulchama, to help win the Mulchama. Or as we'll see, there's a oifin, I think I discussed at the end, there's a oifin that it's after the Mulchama as a reward for the Mulchama. Meaning, that implies that be'etzim, without the oitzer, we can't win the war. Right? Because if we'd be able to win the war without the oitzer, he's not touching that stuff. This is stuff that are beyond Gilui. It shouldn't go to anybody. It's not just like technically he's all defensive and all protective over it. It's be'etzim. It's not shaykh to the masses. It's something that belongs to the king. This is the melech's shashoy melech batzmosei. But in order to win the battle, we give the oitzer. Or Nachmer, as it says, not only he gives it, he's mevazbez it, because just giving without bizbuz won't help the cause. What's the battle? The pashtus, in simple English. What's the battle? What are we fighting?
The battle of Yitzhar says no.
The battle of Yitzhar, it says in the beginning, it says at the end, yeah. The kel zar shabakir b'cha. the shtus de klipa. We have to have the shtus de klipa. So we have to basically go into the shtus de lumazeh klippus, the Yetzer Hara, and do what? And here, in such a low place, be able to make a dira v'tachtoi. Why do you need the oitzer for that? You need the oitzer because on a regular day, right, as he said, there's a way he said it in the Pnim, and there's a way he said it in the Aris Ambadim. It was from the earlier Mamer, Friday, or Shabbos. Either the vart is because the regular, right, because you're lamata mitam b'das, you need lamayla mitam b'das. It was klipa that was irrational, so you need irrational energy within ourselves, and irrational, and lamayla mitam b'das, lamayla mi kol inyoni hagilui mumayla. Or Nachtifer, he says, it's not only that we're irrational this way, or there's a klipa irrational this way, so you have to go beyond rationality, beyond seichel. Seichel itself has been messed up. Right? Because we're talking about someone that uses seichel diktusha, uses seichel of Torah, and uses it heipach Torah. So the middle ground, the derech hamemutze, the way that Rambam brings it, itself has been messed up. So our only solution is to go beyond. Fine. Then he explains, okay, how do we get to the oitzer? Lamata the tachlis, lamayla the ketz, then oitzer. So lamayla the ketz is not our year's Mamer that will be for next year and the next 2 years, 3 years. But here's lamata the tachlis. But here we go lamata the tachlis all the way till the very, very bottom. We go into klippe, into the adam achoyte, and we say what? That no matter how low it goes, this is klippe, this is sitra acher, the heipech of kedusha, and it's a person that's even lower than the sitra acher. Mam is fighting the Eibishter. And even there, it's the Eirin Seif. And the Eirin Seif is not only there, the Eirin Seif is there begilui. At the same time, he stays Ein Soif, he's not misarev, mishtane, mispo. Right, those are all the things. In was drückt sich eis, this nekuda that the Eirin Soif is begilui, even in klippis, even in the Adam Achoyte, even in Sha'oil. Right, we spoke about this last time. We learned in the Mamer Sif Dalet Sif Hey. What does he say? That even there, Ein oid bafilo kshafim. Afilo, even the clip is ein molvadi. The Achos Hashem is even there. Then he says, "Es fun de she'oil gofe." What's the lashon? Der hert men elikos. Right, fun de she'oil, der beten she'oil shavasi. Der fun de she'oil, der hert elikos. So we're saying like this: that no matter how far down a person in Achman Tzlan could go, elikos is there. Der hert elikos. And we spoke about this last week. The Be'etzim, the Chayro, you look at the Biur Chassidus, what's the Pshat, the Einen Mulvada, even in the Kshafim, even in the Klippis, that there's a way that the Klippis could be Megal, are part of Achdus Hashem through their head, right? By when we're Megal, that they don't exist, so Einen Mulvada. But there's Nachti for that wegen Gilui, that in the Klippa Gufa, there's Gilui. What's the Gilui? That when the Veira itself leads a person to tshuva, so there's doinus, nasik izachis, it leads you to a place of tshuva. So then, betzem kum dois, that this is all part of the process of bringing elikos to this world, because it brings you to a place that you couldn't reach without it. So what do you need to know? So matamad nitachlis goes all the way down. It allows us, even no matter how low we are, to the her elikos, to be able to do tshuva, to change ourselves, and mutavli daine, as it brings, right, that when you go down to Sha'oil, it's yiridul tzerich aliyah toiras chesed, so the oynish are going to Sha'oil. And the Rebbe doesn't say this clearly in the Mamer Sifei, but the Rebbe is betzim saying that this that we're brought to a place that we come to Sha'oil, which means even the fact that we came to we did the Avera, the yirida that a person brought himself to, that also is Neir Alila, but comes from the Eibush there, and it's to bring us to a higher place, to change our lives. So we go down to the Shtus Dilumazeh, and we're mehaper the Shtus Kedusha. So we have to go to the Oitzer, to Atzmos. Even before that, even Laila and Ketz we won't need. Lamata de Tachlis, we're so mafli in this Mamer, Lamata de Tachlis, who needs the Oitzer? I don't think anyone has tinus. We'll take Lamata de Tachlis, and Laila and Ketz, we'll take the Oitzer. Yeah, but what's that for not coming to the Oitzer? Huh? Anyone thought about it?
Rely on the next one.
The next one, Marim. So when you reach right, you see at the end of the Maimers, he says, what's the idea of the Oitzer? Now we have the Oitzer that's higher than any level of Gilui. Lamed Aleph. Yeah, that we give the oitzer to a yid that he's tzivus Hashem to go in the Mulchama and win the Kel Zor Asher Bekir B'cha, and he goes in the oifin of Mesiras Nefesh. And then when you use the oitzer, you revazbez it in your avodah, then you win the war. And then we have to reach Anonas Malka, and not Toyev Malka. We don't want anything other than Atzmos, higher than Lamad Aniketz, Lamad Anitachas, higher than anything. And through that we're Mahapich. L'chayre, as we get in Sha'ol, with the hert from Sha'ol Guf, the hert from Alikus, that's it, we did a Sapcha. Right, Mela, we would come and say, what could you say? If there wouldn't be certain Lashonis in the Mamer, you could say, Taka Lamata Adin Tachlis, there's such a great Gilui Oyer. It gives us koyach to stand strong and not give in to the klippa. Right? So you're able to riskaf. We're speaking here with Feiros, l'chayra, there's many l'shoynes here, but begin yes hapcha. In klippis, even the Odom HaChoyte, the Taka went down, l'chayra, riskaf in a way is irrelevant already by him. He's already in Makim HaKlippis. Und da hat man der Innen von is hapcha, und von She'el, der hört man Elikos. So you have it all. So was felt? You were saying? Yeah, so l'chayra is kama ifanim, kirogil. But l'chayra, according to a few diyukim here in the Mamer, and I think I mentioned in the beginning, the first year, that in the sikkum, right? Sometimes in the sikkum, it's like, oh, we're just going through the sikkum and it's all good. But there's dafka the way that Rebbe brings the sikkum of the earlier sifim, that Rebbe's already putting in the seeds for the nekuda that the Rebbe's trying to bring out later. So Vashetzif, the Rebbe already speaks in Sif Aleph, the Rebbe speaks about the oitzer being higher than Lamat Adin Tachlis and even higher than Lamat Adin Ketz, and how low we go. But there's other Lashonis, we'll discuss in a minute, we'll see this inyan of Vilach Eirem, Vila Reis bringing the Nekuda is trying to bring out of here. So the Amos is like this. Taki b'derech klal in Chassidus, we speak about the difference between Iskafi and Ishapche. Now, the difference between Iskafi and Ishapche is that go for there's different biyorim. But in Klali, Iskafi means, right, the Nefesh Bahamis, the Yetzer Hara comes, the Shtus Delum as the Ra in the world, Halfstark. Right, and what you don't engage in it, with it, and you don't go down to its level. You're koifes atzmei. It's Rabbi Basi Legani said chasach in the different sifim of Tafshin Yud of Iskafia and Ishapche, Iskafia Melude Ishapche. Right, in every one of the sifim, that's some words speak about Iskafia and Ishapche. That's in the first 5, 6 sifim. And then the last few sifim, at the end of the last Mamer, the Sif Yutes, Chof. And in each perek, and in the Sikumim, there's different lashon. If it's Skaf, if it's Tzapcha, the various Basi Leganis, that it was Medaik, why this perek is more about Iskaf, this is about Ishapcha, and this is about Iskafia Meila de Ishapcha, because there's always a different deal, each one has its Maila. But even Koli, what's the Maila of Iskafia? The Maila of Iskafia is the Midas and Itzochin of, I'm not giving in, right? Whatever it is, we're not talking about vanquishing the enemy as a sort of transforming the enemy. That's not the Vart. The Vart is that I'm not going to give in to you. And it's like a very, very hard of it. Right? The regular Seder is that Ishapcha is a tzaddikim. Iskaf is a that's the regular Seder of every single person. Perich of Zayin Tanya. That even if again and again you have to break yourself and you don't transform yourself, after so many times of breaking yourself and holding yourself in from giving in to an urge, still, I'll call dechia, don't be nispo, because ulay lekach right? Just have iskafi. But ultimately the goal is iskafia maybe the day is hapchet. At the end of the day, the avodah semonsich, that we shouldn't only stay by iskafia, we should come to ishapchet. The hakabayik call ishapchet is avodah tzadikim. But as the Rebbe brings in many Mamer, in many sichis, right, that haint montmen, akoponim, me'ein, the nekude, the inyan of ishapchet exists by every year. But the MS is that in ishapchet gufe, there's kama biyorim in ishapchet. And in Chassidus, we break up Ishapche into 2 Ifanim in Ishapche. And in the Kudesichas, the Mamorim, it's Magdir very clear what's the Yesoid Achil between the two Ifanim and Isabche. Yeah, we can the two Ifanim? You've seen it somewhere. You've seen it in the Sefer here. You remember the Nekuda. One Oifen in Isabche is Mitzad Ribuy Oyer. Ribuy Oyer. Lamashal, Chassidus brings a dogma. Interesting, I think I might have mentioned earlier, one this year in earlier Mamer. So Bechlal, in the Mugadik and Mamarim and Sichis, so the Rebbe is only Mitzayin to Mugad. So in Mamar, they're Mitzayin to Sichis, Mamar, Mugad. There's very few built-in Mugad, Mamarim and Sichis, so the Rebbe is Mitzayin to in Mugadik, Mamarim and Sichis. And the Pashtos, you know many minds for the Rebbe wrote that you can't be saying nothing ganzen on built-in Mugad, and until it's Mugad, Klor, what's the Pshat? But I guess, my assumption is that certain built-in Mugadik Sichis and Mamarim are so fundamental, why they weren't Mugad basically, but they're so fundamental that the Indian Betzim is Navur there, I guess more or better than anywhere else, that there's nowhere else to be Mitzayim. You have to be Mitzayim to somewhere, so there's a Mitzayim to there. One of the Mamarim that's Mitzuy and Kamapamim in Melukid, and that's the Sichis as well, is Vayirmel Yehenis and Tafshin Yud Aleph. You might have seen it in different Mamarim. There was Mitzayim throughout Melukid. So dort in Retzich, Betzim is Yosef the Nayim Beis, Chelik Gimel, now will be Chelik Zayin, I guess. Vav, what's going to be the Chelik Shlei Nemar? Vav. I have to left Lubavitch. So, basically there's two Ifanim in this Habche. So one Oifen is Tzad Ribu Yor. So it brings the dogma, L'mashal, you have a Kateger and Saneger in court. And the prosecutor is telling this guy is guilty. And the Saneger is being defended. So there's different Ifanim how the lawyer, how the Saneger could convince the Kateger or at least shut down the Kateger. So one of the Ifanim gebracht is, right, so you have an Oifen where the Saneger and Kateger battle it out, each one brings their rayas, and ultimately this guy knows the law better, or maybe he's also right. And ultimately he brings the Kateger to a place that he doesn't have what to answer, or his answers aren't as good as the Saneger's answer, Tainus. So Saneger wins, and this guy is innocent. Or at least the jury couldn't find enough that he's guilty. But then there's an Oifen, Brach Chassidus, where the Kateger bets him helped by Zayins, the Saneger helped by Zayins, no one convinced anybody. But the Melech kommt da rein, Beis HaMishpat. And the Melech is Ba'or Pnei Melech Chaim. The Melech is Ba'or Pnei Melech Chaim. The Melech is Tachlis HaChesed. When the Melech walks in, right, that's why the Melech is the one that could give a clemency, you could give a Chanina, the Melech is Tachlis HaChesed. Chofetz Chesed. So when the Melech walks in, the Kateger just shuts down. Not the Pshat. It's not the Pshat that he's completely, and as number one, all his tightness fall apart, and then they'll ask the Kateger and say, Kateger, Saneger, you should be released, yeah. Kateger should be released, yeah. Now, so it's interesting. It's an interesting shiluk, because on the one hand, did the Kateger become convinced? No, not necessarily. At the same time, it's not the pshat that he's saying this guy is guilty, but because the Melech is here, I can't fight against the king. When the Melech walks in, it's such a gilui of chesed that everyone just, it changes the whole mood in the room. And everyone is like, okay, let the guy go. Right? You see sometimes you have a person can very, very stark days, but then the mood in the room changes, the aver changes, or let's say this public, he doesn't have to always be a king, let's say public pressure is very strong in one direction, where all of a sudden he relents and he gives in, and that's it, he goes with that day. So you have a matziv, the Gilui Eir is so strong that it takes over everything in its path. Nothing can stand in its way. So Moshe, you have the Eir HaShemesh. You have Eir. Now each Eir has a gvul, how far the light can shine, right? So you have a small little flashlight that you bring to camp, a small little flashlight, it's a few feet. You get the real chashuv head staff flashlights, it mamish goes. Then you have more Eir, it goes further and further and further. Ultimately it stops at a certain place. You have Eir HaShemesh that mamish goes bli gvul, right? It says later in the Mamer that Avtzon, the Eir HaShemesh Atzmi would go, it wouldn't stop. There's the Achrudi Shaba'avir. But even the Eir HaShemesh that goes really, really far, and l'cheira, it could go millions, billions of miles, light years away, But ultimately, it stops at a certain era. Where does it stop? When something ma'akiv, right? A cloud comes. There's a wall, right? You come inside the house. You close the door. There's no more Eir Shemesh. The lights are off. It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's a bright sun, and it's a beautiful day, a sunny day. But now you have a wall blocking you. There's a window. The window's open. The sun comes through. You put a shade on it. There's no more Eir Shemesh. Right? So ultimately, the oir is mugbal in the fact, no matter how far it goes, it's mugbal in the fact that it can't go through a wall. Then, lu yitzur, there would be a za oir, and that's, I would assume, with infrared and all other kinds of technologies, right? You have an oir that can go through a barrier, right? You have a za oir bleak vul that nothing can stand in its way, and even you'll put everything that's normally are the regular barriers that would stop the oir going through. This oir could go through. So that would be a za oir bleak vul that mamish. There is no limit whatsoever where it can reach. Right? So you have a Rav that can explain things to a Talmud. So a regular Rav can explain things to a Talmud l'fiyerka. Then it's boring chassidus that a Rav that's mamish tif could explain things till mata, right? Even to the very, very simple child that doesn't understand anything. The little child can only understand the first grade teacher. But here, so who could a young child understand? Either someone on his level, or someone that's so deep that could bring the deepest ideas down to the lowest level. Right? But saf, even the greatest chacham that could explain things to the most simple kid, so a stein can't nishmas. The stone can't understand. Why? It's not a chifsarin in the Rav and in the chacham. He's talking, because ultimately you need seichel. You can only talk to a yish that can understand something. A stone doesn't have any seichel. But Lu Yitzuyir, you had such a chacham bli gvul that's not movable in anything, and his chachma can go into a stone as well. Right? His ideas are so klar and so emes that afilu ashtain can verstehen. Right? Which is be'etzim what the Rebbe did at every fabring. Right? To a certain degree, right? That the and that's what Veda called Paul Kiata Piata Yom Kachar Yitzartei. That be'etzim you're able to take things that are be'etzem mitzad that mekabel, they're be'in haroich. What's be'in haroich? It's not shaykh. They're not in that world b'chlal. But because the oir is so strong, the seichel is so tiff, the bli gvul, it's a bli gvul that it could go mata adinta. So maybe in our case, you have the oir. The oir, the ibish there is oir ein seif. It's oir ein seif l'mayla and it's oir ein seif l'mata. And as the Rebbe says later in the Mamer, even when it comes l'mata, it stays ein tachlis. It's a very interesting word, because the Pashtas, we understand the mata and tachlis, and ketz. What is ein tachlis and ein ketz going on? On the mata. In other words, it goes, this oir goes so low, mata, ad ein tachlis, the lowest level. That's ein tachlis. The lowest of the low. Mata, ad ein tachlis. No matter how low you go, chutz hashem chutz l'mata, it's there as well. L'mayla, however high you go, ad ein ketz. But the Rebbe says, the ein tachlis and ein ketz, the way the Rebbe learns it, at least in the end of the Mamer, is it's part of the oir. The oir is ein soy, it's infinite. So wherever it goes, it stays with its pshittas, with its infinity, with its pshittas. So no matter how mata it goes, it stays ein tachlis. No matter how maila it goes, it stays. It's in its ein ketz. In other words, ein tachlis ein ketz. Another way of saying ein soif. Bleibt ein soif lamata. There's ein soif lamayla. So the so no matter how far down it goes into klippe, it goes to adam achayte. The oir is pure. The oir is begilui. Even there, right? Even the stone can understand the Dvar Seichel. Even beyond the wall, the Eir HaShemesh comes through. And you don't, not in the way you have to go out. You have to go out of the room to see the Eir HaShemesh. No, you can see the Eir HaShemesh in the room. In the Sha'il, you can see the Eir HaShemesh. In the Klippim, there's a Gilul Likos. Aber was? Aber sof, it's mitzad the Eir. Because the Eir is bligvul. Right, the end of last year's Mamer Chav Gimel, so the whole Mamer was about mata, how low. And then at the end of the Mamer, has the Rebbe say, on dort Guf is the dort in B'chinas Ein Soif, und se drickt sich in was? In one line, the Rebbe said, La yidach imenu nidach. So, La yidach imenu, every you can do tshuva, every you do tshuva. Mitzad mat tachlis, you come to tshuva. The also the Rebbe says you can do tshuva, mitzad mat tachlis. But mitzad sheni, what does it mean, La yidach imenu nidach? L'yidach minu nidach, right? What does the Rambam say? What's the lesson of the Rambam? Hivticha Torah, soif Yisrael lasis tshuva miyadei nigal. It says l'yidach minu nidach. Hivticha Torah shesoif Yisrael lasis tshuva. The Torah is maftiach. The Eibusher is maftiach that you're going to end up doing tshuva. And l'yidach minu nidach mimenu. The Rebbe's medayik nesich l'yidach mimenu nidach. This l'yidach it's mimenu. Because the Eibusher is grim, the Eibusher is poil, the Eibusher makes sure that no Jew will be left behind. No Jew will be behind. Not only he'll schlep us out of Golus. But who yiftes Yisrael mikol v'neis? Who p'des Yisrael mikol tzadesa? But who yiftes Yisrael mikol v'neis? So the Eibusher will make sure every single one of us does tshuva. Now this is the whole sugi in Chassidus, l'cheire, ibazeh. How does Hivticha Torah, Seiv Yisrael Asis tshuva, work with Bchira? Right? How do the two go together? You have there's a Mamer of the Tzemach Tzedek that built Chazer in Tezayin, V'hoya Tishmon, the Shaila is V'hoya Tishmon, V'hoya Im Tishmon. What's Ekev Tishmon? It's like Im Shemaya Tishmon. So if you'll listen, it says that Ekev Tishmon goes on Zman of Ikus de Meshicha, and the Zman of Ikus de Meshicha then is Vadai Tishmon, because L'yidach Menu Nidach. And the Birurim are already Mestayim, so you didn't have to go out of Golos. So Vadai Tishmon, you're definitely going to go out of Golos. And everyone's going to listen to the Eibusher, and we're all going to do Tshuva. The Rebbe Chazer into Zayin, and then it's very interesting, there's a letter in Igris, then Mamer right after the Mamer. The Rebbe basically says, there, also in the Mugadik of Hoyekev, Hoyekev Chav Zayin, the Rebbe brings part of this in that Mamer. The Chayra comes from the Mamer to Zayin, it's in the Mugad of Chav Zayin. But there's a letter the Rebbe writes to somebody about how a person could be oimed ben Yisoyim when the Yitzhahara comes. The Rebbe says in our Doyer, when we have the Ch'mayim and Tzemach Tzedek, L'yidach Menu Nidach, that Vadei Tishmon, so you just have to tell the Yitzhahara, it's like we're in the matzav of Vadei Tishmon. So like you're going to lose. It's not a regular Zelu Mazeh. In our Doyer, we're definitely going to win. Now, how does that work with Bechira? Yeah, it's a good question. It's a very good question. And in different places in the Kutah Sichis and the Mamorim, there's a Mamer, a Chodesh, Lamed Hey, where the Rebbe addresses it. There's some Sichis in the Kutah Sichis. There's the Aleis Chotav Shinun, which is a topic of its own. I want to get into that at the moment. I just give it some Mamer Kodesh. Want to look it up. But so that's one oifin. So there's one oifin where we're saying, and this is the Chayra, this is the end of Chav Gimel, that mitzad mata adin tachlis, oiritz mata adin tachlis, lo yidach menu nidach. The Eibusher makes sure every single yid is going to do tshuva. Why? Because the oiritz they're great in the other plans. But that's only the first level of the Sabche. Aber what's the ultimate kavanah? The ultimate kavanah is the next stage of Ishabche. The next stage of Ishabche is Lailo Kayoim Yoir. That the Lailo, that the Choyshech Alein, that the Mata Alein, mitzad its Gdorim. Not mitzad the Gila Likus Mol Maila. Not mitzad because the Eibusher is Bli Gvul and the Eibusher can krichin and the Greichen Liberal. Because ultimately, it's not the ultimate dir of Tachtoinim. Because on some level, it's the Eibusher making his dira. We're doing tshuva. Yisrael loisim tshuva, but it's Ivticha Torah Yisrael loisim tshuva. It's the it's the Torah telling us Yidach mimenu nidach, that the Eibusher makes sure that we'll do tshuva. Sicha mitzayrach elik zayin v'huvay lakoyin. The Yid will be gebracht to the koyin. The mitzvah will be brought to the koyin. It happens milmayla. Misad the Eir Soif Mad Adi Tachlis. What's the avodah here? The avodah of Mahapav saying is this is the real Ishabche. That you actually have to take the sheker ha'olam, use this sheker and be mehapichet to kedusha. In Kama Mekoyim in the Sichis where the Rebbe speaks about the different levels of Ishabche and the higher level of Ishabche, the Rebbe's mitzayin to Basi Legani Perikei of the Friedrich Basi Legani Perikei, which that's where it speaks about this whole ket over here. Mamshach Mamer, in the second ket here of our Mamer, it's Sifei Perikei, where the shtus, as menem the shtus the lumazeh and hapach the shtus the kedusha. That's the ultimate Ishabche. That what? That now it's not that a person comes because of his eirus mulmayla. It's that the person himself, on their own volition, their own conscience, from their own space, a person their head, how finster it is, and how corrupt this life, and how tachten elam haza is. Not mitzad the gil, not mitzad there's inspiration from above, but he himself comes to. There's different. Find the way it's moving. In Chassidus, one oifin is the avodah of Mediros, the avodah where a person just, it's not even about Gilal Likus, the person just recognizes that I'm completely disassociated, I'm completely, this can lead. Right, Namit said that he's lacking Gilal Likus. Yeah. He's disconnected, or no, just like, it's just a choshech, like how could I live this kind of life? That's one way. From the Chayra and the Mamerim here, it's being a bit of a different Nikud, I'll say in a moment. But the Nikud is, it's not mitzad a Gili Mul Mayl, it's mitzad as Alain now does tshuva and connects himself to the Eibishter, and the Tachtin Alain becomes a Kli from his, on his own terms. Now, the problem with this is, the moment I'm saying the Eibishter is giving us an Eitzer, if Lamata, the Tachlis is a Gilead and save. So giving us an Eitzer, the Eibishter is saying, Nadir, Eitzer. Here's the Eitzer. Take it all. But that's the word. If the Eitzer here would be L'mayla din Ketz, instead of Matan din Tachlis, so we're talking about a higher Gilead. So it's a much bigger issue. This issue, this lack of it being mitzad the person, mitzad that comes L'mayla, would be Nachmer. Versteht sich, the way L'mayla din Ketz is in Skala down here is a different way from Matan din Tachlis. It's in a way of Helam, not in a way of Giloi. But because even that level of Helam is a Prat in Oyer, so it's weiter, it's the Eibishter being more, it's not more Bligvul, even Bligeder, it's Mamish the Eibishter being able to express himself the Chol Makim Umah. Here we're saying, no, it's not L'mata din Tachlis, it's not L'mayla din Ketz, it's Atzmos. Okay, so what's Atzmos? It's the easy way out. It's Atzmos, so there's no, you already see it coming. What's actually happening? What's being given to us? What actually happens by the person when the Oitzer is in Skala? So it's interesting, right? So one of the Nikudis, I mentioned this, I just mentioned it today, I mentioned it in a second, I think we mentioned the first year, is when is the Oitzer given? Yeah, we spoke, I think we spoke about it. But let me talk a little more. Is the Oitzer given before everything? Is the Oitzer given after we start? We do our Chodesh Shalmach, we do our Mesiras Nefesh, and then we get an Oitzer, or the Oitzer Bechlal is a Schar. So there's an interesting Gvar. In other words, in the later Mamorim of this Machzer, and it's Chavtes and Lamed. So there the Rebbe speaks about. The Rebbe goes into this Indian: is the Oitzer the Mayla Niketz, or is the Oitzer Atzmos? So in Chavtes, pretty much the Rebbe is machriya that it's Atzmos, and this that it's even though it starts with saying Etzem Ha'or, the Hamshich is that he really means Atzmos. In Lamed, the end of Tafshan Lamed, which is the last Mamer, the first Machzer, the Rebbe says an interesting part. It's at the end of the Mamer. It's a very long Mamer, 20, I think something safe. So there the Rebbe says the Oitzer we get before. The Rebbe says the Oitzer we get before the war. In order to win the battle is the Etzem Ha'or, and the Oitzer we get as a schar, because Mamish at the end, you look at the end of Perek Chaf, Sif Chaf of the Friedrich Rebbe, he finishes off, through winning the war, we get the Oitzer. And what's that? Previous Atzmos Ein Sof. So Atzmos is after, is the schar, versus Etzem Ha'or, that's before. The Etzem Ha'or meaning L'mayla din Ketz, yeah. Or it's the higher level L'mayla din Ketz. In Tezvav, it's L'mayla din Ketz is let's say the Shayra Shagvul, and then Tezayin Yudzayin, we go into Etzem Ha'or and Spashus Ha'or. Spashus Ha'or is the Shayra of L'mayla din Tachlis, and Etzem Ha'or is the Shayra of L'mayla din Ketz. And I'm not going to get into the hasbara of that at the moment. Huh?
Yechida as well.
Oh.
This Mamer there is Yechida.
But on Shabbos Mamer, I think the Rebbe says Etzem HaNeshama higher than Yechida.
Yeah?
Yeah? Right? So l'ch'oire, that's what I'm saying. So l'ch'oire, these things are somewhat related. And we'd have good trachten and see how it fits. L'ch'oire, these things are connected. But let's speak about this Nekuda for a moment. In this Mamer, is the Oitzer before or after? How far in the Maimon did you get?
In the beginning, already brings the Ara. They were bringing both. In the beginning of the
See, the Ara is the Rebbe's bringing the Ara. The Ara is from the.
Right.
Right, all the way in the end, there's a Lashon, right? And the way the Rebbe says it is, you can see this in the end of the second to last ket of the Maimer, right? And the way the Rebbe says it is, this Oitzer he speaks about the Oitzer Yerush Shemaim of the person. Und is mevaz is in avoid Mesiras Nefesh. Und demol is menatzecht im Molchama und demol führt Ois as mis mevaz is der Oitzer Shel Maila. Me git dem kol hein Yaker afilo bis is hecher von Eure in Sof. Was is la Maila adin Ketzel la mata adin Tachlis. the beginning of that keta, or the end of the previous keta, it's giving the oitzer is a sasum and nit an initial gilui, und das gibt man ab bei jedem mitzad der ruf as sivs avaya, as soll gehen in mulchame in welt mit we get the oitzer in order to go and fight the mulchame, but here it doesn't say clearly. Yeah, here also he says this is the oitzer that's higher than any Indian of gilui, but then so he starts saying like this: we get the oitzer in order to fight the Yitzhar, and then there's the oitzer within us that is the oitzer shel yirah shamayim. That's the way we do our avodah. And then we get the oitzer. That's it. We just had the oitzer, and so there's 3 oitzers like in one shot here. So I'm going to have time to go through every single lashon here, and we can, everyone can be medayik and see how it fits. But l'chayrev was kumt ois, and I think this will also be miyusid on the Haggah. It's a very interesting Haggah that the Rebbe has on the LNS press release. All right, so I think we already spoke about the Friday night, Kabbalah Shabbos, but there's another interesting. So it says about the Mamer that the oitzer. That what's the oitzer? The oitzer is the inyanim in Torah that are miskalatos, and the Rebbe added. Anyone have it here? You could dig it up somewhere. In the oitzers from the what's lashon? If you find the exact lashon, the oitzers from the Yiddish and Neshama. If you find the lashon. I think it's very interesting because when you learn the Mamer here, it doesn't seem, when we're saying that the Ibshar gives us the oitzer, it's the oitzer of the Yiddish and Neshama. It seems what we're saying is, Pashas the way Mamer side in the Pnim and side the Aris, the Ibshar gives us an oitzer Momaila, and that sort of triggers or awakens our oitzer b'fnim, and then we get the oitzer Momaila. Now again, which one? How are all these ages? What are the different oitzers? But the way that Rebbe wrote it in over here is. We're speaking about the oitzer that's actually given, and it says their nimshal is as the hechste getliche oitzers was liegen behalten in der Torah, and then the Rebbe wrote in Ksav Yod Ekdesha und in a jüdische Neshama werden jetzt geöffnet und vertellt zu jeder Yidin was mobilisiert v'chol v'chol. That the oitzers that we get the oitzers of the oitzers within the Yiddish and Neshama. And this is part of the verb, because this is the deal. Because we're talking about the oitzer, when we say that oitzer comes from Atzmos Ein Soif, higher than Helam, Atzmos doesn't give Yidden anything L'mayla L'mata. It's not that there's an oir, like oir is L'mayla L'mata, like the oir Hashemesh that comes in through the wall, the chokmah that goes into the mata mata. As Atzmos Gita Yid, it's Yisrael Kodesh B'richut Kol Achad. It's like before the Mamorim, Tishrei Chav Gimel, when Yidden blow shofar. What's blowing shofar? It's not we're being ma'oyer or something. It's the etzem and neshama of a Yid's being nes'oyer. But so the etzem and neshama from a Yid, and atmos from the Eibishter is ein zach. Ultimately, it's not the Eibishter gives us a oitzer, and that allows. If you'd say the Eibishter just gives some sort of gilui, and that's ma'oyer the giluim of our neshama, fine. Even there, we're right. Psari echzalika, and our giluyim are connected. The Eibishter's giluyim. But with etzem, it's not that we reciprocate and we are we parallel. The Eibishter has etzem, we have etzem. The Eibishter has etzem, and Yid's etzem is ein zach. So this is the vart that what we're talking about over here is the gilui atzmos of the Eibishter, which this haze the gilui from the etzem from the Yid, the yechida from the Yid, the nachti for the way the Shabbos Mamer, the etzem from the Yid, the etzem from the Yid. So here we're saying is that the Yid alein, it's the Yid mitzad atzmoi, without any external motivation, without any gilui momayla. It's not a gilui. Etzem's not niskala. When we say that the oitzer is given to us, it means that the etzem and the sham from the Yid is niskala by him. Or Mela, this is the Yid himself, the tachdin itself, the etzem within a Yid, and ultimately, but through that, a Yid's megala, the etzem within the Welt, because also the Nefesh Bahamis had the koyach etzem, the Welt had koyach etzem. When we're megala, the koyach etzem within the world, as the choshech alein, the choshech atzma yoyer, and what's lashon about the pupil of the eye? No, we get that the black, the shachas sheba'ayin itself starts seeing that the gilui, or basically that the choshech itself, the tachtin itself, mitzad the etzem sheboy, not a gilui momayla. That's the ultimate ishapche, and for that we need the gilui etzem that's higher than lamat and tachas and higher than lamat and ketz. The chibur etzem be'etzem from even Neibishtin, and how does a yid reach that? Ano toiv malka, ano nasi malka. Nothing else. Not this gilui, not that gilui. A yid is ein zach with the Eibishter. He recognizes nothing else. It's only me and the Eibishter. That hakara, that nikuda, that's the ultimate ishapchas. Tachtin alein, as der Welt alein, as Mengala, the nikuda atzmis. Yisrael kuch brichu kol achad, and that's a ganze Welt, is ein zach with the Eibishter, and that's the ultimate kavana, was kommt reis von der Mamer. Van kol al der Efsher, and weiter. Kan le chacham.
Is that connected to...